And the person behind this, the man who basically engineered the reason you're not itching in Frontierland, is Joe Potter. There is something very strange missing at Walt Disney World, and once you notice it, you can't unnotice it. The answer? Mosquitoes. You are standing in central Florida in humidity that feels like a weighted blanket in what used to be a literal swampland, and you're not being eaten alive. It doesn't make sense. Because 5 minutes off Disney property, you're slapping your ankles in a Target parking lot. So, how did Disney pull this off? And the answer is not pixie dust, it's civil engineering. This is one of my favorite topics to talk about because civil engineering at Disney is just something that I did not learn about until I started really deep diving in. And there's just so much to it between no mosquitoes and the way they have transportation set up, which I'll talk about in another episode. It is just great. So when I get a mix of drainage systems and Disney history, I am just thrilled. And the person behind this, the man who basically engineered the reason you're not itching in Frontierland, is Joe Potter. If you've ever taken the ferry from the Transportation and Ticket Center to Magic Kingdom, one of the ferry boats is actually named General Joe Potter. That's not a ceremonial name. That's a very earned name. So let's talk about who was Joe Potter and why did Walt need him? Joe Potter was not an Imagineer in a traditional sense. He was West Point educated, MIT graduate, Army Corps of Engineers. During World War II, he directed logistics for the invasion of northern France. After the war, he served in Washington overseeing major civil engineering projects. Then, President Dwight D. Eisenhower appointed him governor of the Panama Canal Zone, which casually meant he governed 40,000 people and managed infrastructure in a tropical, mosquito-heavy climate. And that is something that matters because Panama had a serious mosquito problem. Joe understood tropical drainage, he understood standing water, he understood disease prevention through infrastructure. After 38 years in the Army, he retired. Then he became executive VP of the New York World's Fair. And that's where he met Walt Disney. Now, here's the part I love. Walt didn't just want rides in Florida. He wanted a functioning city, an experimental prototype community, a self-contained system. He needed someone who could engineer land that wasn't even usable yet. So in 1965, Joe Potter became vice president of Florida planning. And this is where the mosquito story really began. So what Disney actually bought. Let's talk about that for a second. When Disney secretly purchased the Florida land, it wasn't empty, it was wet. There was Bay Lake, there were small creeks, including Reedy Creek and Bonnet Creek. There were cypress swamps, there was standing water everywhere, and standing water in Florida is a mosquito nursery. So here is what most people don't realize. Before you can build a castle, you have to build the infrastructure. There were no utilities, no roads, no sewer systems, no drainage network, no power grid. They weren't developing land, they were actually creating the land. And they had to do it on soil that is saturated, unstable, and flood prone. This was a civil engineering nightmare. Or a dream, depending on your personality. So let's talk about the drainage master plan. So here's the core mosquito principle. Mosquitoes need still water to lay eggs. So Disney made sure water never sits still. Joe Potter redesigned the natural waterways into controlled canals. The Reedy Creek system was reshaped into engineered channels, sometimes called Joe's ditches. There are twin canals starting north of Magic Kingdom, and they snake through the property with deliberate right-angle turns. They move south, and they connect near Animal Kingdom. They continue toward regional levee systems known as D6. In total, there's over 100,000 linear feet of canals. But it's not just canals. It's water gate controls, levees, culverts, retention basins, surface drainage systems under, parking lots. Stormwater management around every resort. And here is where it gets even cooler. When they built the Seven Seas Lagoon, they moved 7 million cubic yards of dirt. That dirt created the elevated base of the Magic Kingdom and the utilidor system underground. While excavating, they were also shaping rivers of America and the surrounding waterways. So all of it connects, all of it moves, and all of it drains. Must sail. The total water surface area between Bay Lake, Seven Seas Lagoon, and theme park waterways is about 650 acres. but it's controlled water. It's moving water. It's engineered water. It is not swamp. So it is not just canals, it is layers. The drainage system is the backbone, but Disney stacks solutions. So let's talk about architecture. Roofs are sloped. There's no ponding. If you look at Spaceship Earth, the rainwater is channeled intentionally through the structure. Next, we're going to talk about landscaping, plants chosen and maintained to prevent water pooling, and there's no decorative stagnant ponds. If you look at the water features, the fountains are circulating constantly. Mosquito-eating fish is stocked in water bodies, and yes, targeted pest control. Instead of heavy fogging, Disney uses measured approaches, including garlic based spray in certain areas. Mosquitoes can detect it, but humans barely do. It's subtle, it's very intentional, and it just adds to the layer. So let's look at the bigger lesson of all of this. Here's why I love this beyond engineering. This can be aligned right with Disney planning because Disney didn't react to the mosquitoes. They assumed they were coming and they designed around them. And you can have this mindset when you are planning a Disney trip because most people are planning rides, but they are not planning the friction. But friction is guaranteed. So before your next trip, ask if it rains at 2, where are we going? If the lightning lane time shift, what's plan B? If my kid hits a wall in Fantasyland, what's our reset zone? That is your drainage system. You're not eliminating the stress, you're giving it somewhere to go. And that changes everything. I love when Disney history isn't about characters, but about the infrastructure, and it's about the invisible work that makes the magic feel effortless. Next week, we're shifting from invisible systems to something very visible, lightning lanes. Are they worth it or are they a wallet trap? We're going to break down the real math. We're going to talk about strategy and whether they actually save your time or just feel like they do. So keep the magic, skip the chaos, and I'll meet you on Main Street.